I thought that I was dreaming in the opera house, for all the cats were screaming, dig a crazy mouse. And a prima donna shouting out the blues to a tenor wearing blue suede shoes. Cause now it's rock and roll opera. Ooh, rock and roll opera. Rock and roll opera where the long hair used to be. The band is really rocking when it starts to play a tune you wouldn't recognize as one fine day. The cats are really jumping, waiting to begin. And if your tiny hand is frozen, then they'll give you some skin. For it's rock and roll opera. Ooh, rock and roll opera. Rock and roll opera where the long hairs used to be. In Samson and Delilah, she took out her shears, grabbed his Tony Curtis, held him by the ears, started in a snip, and for the time was ripe. Now that Samson is a crew cut type, cause now it's rock and roll opera. Ooh, rock and roll opera. Rock and roll opera where the long hairs used to be. The leader of the band is looking round the floor. He's such a fine musician, doesn't need a score. His bank account is growing since he won the poll. He's got a musical certificate in rock and roll, cause it's rock and roll opera. Ooh, rock and roll opera. Rock and roll opera where the long hairs used to be.
Presenting Pagliacci,
Starring Elvis Presley,
The Barber of Seville,
with Bill Haley,
Salome,
sung by Gene Vincent,
The Magic Flute,
played by Earl Bostic. Puccini and Rossini better watch their step. They'll never make the hit parade cause they ain't hep. And every leading tenor's trying hard to be the greatest rock and roll sensation singing out of key. For it's rock and roll opera. Ooh, rock and roll opera. Rock and roll opera where the long hairs used to be. It's the rock and roll opera.